It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
That's caught! Touchdown! Stayed inside the boundary and gets in for 6.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Ritchie right to the rim, driving score! He would not be denied!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Sponsored by Any Hour Services, Electrical, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, Cougar Nation. Welcome on into Cougar Sports Saturday on this Saturday, November 1st, the final chase to Big 12 Championship football. Championship football is played this month, and it's going to be a huge month for not only BYU football, but BYU basketball as well. We have arrived at crossover season, and we are going to be breaking it all down, even on this bye week over the next 3 hours. Mitch Harper and Nate Slack filling in for Kyle Ireland today. Kyle is in Maui enjoying the sunshine and beaches of Hawaii on the bye week, and he'll be back next week. But Nate, happy to have you on board. And Halloween good last night for you?
Halloween was great. You know, I didn't have as much candy as I probably would have liked, but it was good. We just hung out at my in-laws' house and went trick-or-treating with my son. He was dressed up as a BYU football player.
Fantastic.
I was a coach, my wife a referee, but it was a good Halloween.
That's good. It was I will say, though, last night I was passing out candy for trick-or-treaters. Only 2 kids showed up in my neighborhood in Murray. Is trick-or-treating just kind of done? It feels like it's kind of dying the more and more as years go by.
Maybe. My parents' house, they usually have about 20 people maybe each year. Last night at my in-laws, they had probably 50 or 60 kids. So not as much candy left over.
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
I guess, I did see a story this week that the best zip code in the country for Halloween trick-or-treating is Lehigh, Utah. So maybe I'm not in the right zip codes. Murray's just not the hot spot. It's not the epicenter for trick-or-treating, but nonetheless, I'm sure, Kalani Sitake and this BYU football team enjoyed the bye week. And Kalani even noted this week that he had a funny story where Taysom Hill was once handing out candy at his door, and ever since, kids have been saying, "Where's Taysom?" Hey, it's Kalani Sitake's house. You got to hang out with the head coach. But these bye weekends traditionally seem to always happen here for BYU. Second consecutive year where Halloween week is the bye week. 7th time since 2011 that BYU has a bye on Halloween week. But it's a good chance, Nate, to kind of size up this BYU football team as they are 8-0, tied for 10th in the AP Top 25 poll. 4 games to go, 1/3 left of the season remaining. What do you feel about this team heading down to the final stretch of the season with Big 12 championship aspirations within reach?
Feeling really good about it. And I think when the season started, none of us expected to be 8-0 in this spot. Especially, I thought BYU could jump out to a good record early on because the schedule was kind of soft and it gradually got more and more difficult. But when I saw where the Iowa State game was placed right after Utah, and Utah has had a pretty good bounce back from last season, I didn't expect for BYU to be in this spot. And I think it's a great position for the bye week just because guys are starting to get more banged up. I don't remember this many injuries on the team last season. Last season, it seemed like it was a really healthy year for BYU football. This year, you've got guys like Jack Kelly, who's got a banged-up shoulder, and Isaiah Glasker's had some issues. Now, LJ Martin, we'll see where he's at. But I think it's a good spot for a bye where guys can kind of reset and get ready for the last 4 games of the season.
That's a great point on the injuries because you're right. Last year, it felt like the key guys were always available. And this year, that's being tested. Even early in the year when JoJo Phillips got injured against Stanford, he's been out since week 2. There's optimism from the coaching staff, including Aaron Roderick, that JoJo will return next week against Texas Tech. But it is a banged-up team, and hopefully they can get healthy. They can tap into that Chase Roberts Super Y power and get healed up as quick as possible. That's all the rage these days. Super Y is just taking off like a firestorm down in Provo, but the injuries have to slow down for BYU. They got to get healed up, and hopefully that bye allows for it because when you bring up LJ Martin, him going out with what appeared to be an upper body injury, shoulder injury for LJ Martin, it appeared to be in that game. Curious to see how he feels because LJ is critical for this team's success. I do believe, though, even if they had a game without LJ, maybe a game, maybe 2 at most, that you could win games still without LJ. You can get creative because with what they've done, even last week at Iowa State, putting up 300 yards through the air from Bear Bachmeier. Bear's ability to have success running the football and quarterback draws. BYU can get creative. And I would imagine, too, Aaron Roderick with players like Parker Kingston, maybe you make some position switches happen. You're going to find ways to get it done, but LJ's huge because he's the best running back in the Big 12. He's one of the best running backs in college football. Hopefully he can have a speedy recovery and be back to full strength because if you do want to win a Big 12 title, you've got to have LJ.
Yeah, I think so. And one thing we talked about before the season even started is if you want to be in contention for a Big 12 championship, you have to grab great quarterback play. And I think last week was really the week where it kind of clicked for me where I'm like, man, Bear is special because he had some good performances against Arizona and Utah in the clutch, even this morning on College Game Day. Or was it? No, it was Big Noon Kickoff. And yes. Brady Quinn is saying that if he had one quarterback in the entire country to have the ball in his hands at the end of a game, he'd want Bear Bachmeier to have that ball. But I think last week when it shows it's kind of a one-dimensional team, and you have Preston Rex, but he's not the runner that LJ Martin is. And then you've got the Enoch Nawahine, who's been banged up on and off throughout the year. And you have, Pokai Haunga he didn't end up being on the team this season.
Yeah, day 3 of fall camp, he's gone. Day 1 of camp, he's there. Day 3, he's gone.
Hinckley Rapati is at practices all fall camp, and then he doesn't get his waiver. So it's kind of a bummer that BYU's in this position with the running backs. But I feel confident that Bear Bachmeier, and especially with the bye week, I think Aaron Roderick can be really creative in how maybe just more jet sweeps or something. But I think you saw in the first half and the second half last week against Iowa State, it was like two different teams. Like BYU really struggled out the gates, especially when LJ went down. They just didn't know how to move the ball. They come out after the break, and they're able to rattle off a 31-3 run. And so I think with an extra week of preparation, even if LJ can't go, I think BYU will be prepared and they'll have a good enough game plan to be able to move the ball.
I'm also curious to see maybe what lessons BYU can pull from. Think back to 2 years ago, and I bring that up because BYU had one of the worst rushing offenses in college football. I'm not suggesting that now, but just LJ's absence, if he is out against Texas Tech, and again, we'll find out more in the coming weeks officially when that availability reports, and we'll find out more on Monday from Kalani Sitake. But if he is absent, what lessons maybe can you pull from 2 years ago where you had a struggling ground attack against the Big 12, and you found a way to win a game against a Texas Tech program? I think BYU's learned a lot, and I just feel like this, and I bring that up because this coaching staff, with how much they've been together with Kalani and Aaron Roderick, they've gone through a lot offensively to where they've almost experienced everything now. And I feel like even if you have a key personnel loss, if LJ can't go, I think there's still a confidence and belief that we will find a way to get it done. When Jake Retzloff goes out the door and the quarterback situation feels like, where do you go next? They were very confident internally to the point where even in fall camp, I remember Aaron Roderick's like, hey, when I asked him the question, I said, what's kind of your message to Cougar Nation? He's like, hey, we got this. We know what we're doing. We will be fine. And they had that confidence then when people had doubts. I want to give them that benefit of the doubt this time. If they are down some key personnel, they will find a way. Same with the defensive side, too, with Jay Hill. They will find a way to make it work and get it done. So I don't look at any game remaining on the schedule and say, oh, chalk it up to an automatic loss, because I think BYU has just this amazing ability to find a way to get victories. That's their DNA since last year. But still, you want to really maximize your potential as a team this season. You want your full collection of guys down that stretch run, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later for this BYU team.
Yeah, I think people don't talk enough about the continuity on the coaching staff and how big that is, just because they know what the culture of the team is. Kalani always points to that. But I think one of the main points of emphasis the team has had is they just want to get out with a win. And it can get frustrating at times. You watch BYU play West Virginia, and you kind of wonder why is BYU not blowing these guys out? But that's kind of the DNA of this team, is they don't really care if it's by 1 point or by 7, and they start counting possessions. Aaron Roderick's talked about that throughout his time at BYU is, BYU's up by 10 points, and they start counting possessions in the second half. And so they don't care how it looks or by how many points it's done, as long as they get out with a win. And I feel like that works really well in this situation where you don't know exactly who's going to be lining up with on BYU's side next week, but the coaches are going to have a plan ready, and they're going to do what they can just to escape Lubbock with a win.
He's Nate Slack. I'm Mitch Harper. We're here on Cougar Sports Saturday up until 3 o'clock. We're live here at Broadcast House in Salt Lake City. We'll take our first break. On the other side, the college football playoff rankings get revealed for the first time this season. What are we expecting for BYU in those debut rankings? Let's hit on that next here on Cougar Sports Saturday. And then coming up at the bottom of the hour, Hank Bachmeier, older brother to Bear Bachmeier. He joins us live here on KSL News Radio.